Hello everybody, and welcome to History Bite number 26, dated August the 31st, 2020. I'm Walter, your mobile historian and blue-collar scholar. This History Bite is entitled, Amending the Maryland State Constitution. In a previous History Bite, we discussed how a state constitutional convention can be called by voter referendum here in Maryland. But in this History Bite, we discuss how a simple amendment or amendments can be added to the state constitution without a grand constitutional convention. So, in all things considered, Maryland is a pretty easy state when it comes to amending the state constitution, as it seems like every time there's a general election, there are at least one or more amendments for us to consider. So allow me to explain the process to you. Beginning with a constitutional bill that must be introduced in either house of the Maryland General Assembly, thus the House of Delegates or the state Senate, okay? That constitutional bill must be passed by a 3/5 majority, or 60% of members in both houses, for it to go forward. If that threshold is not met, then the bill will die. Should that threshold be met, then the bill will be set as a constitutional amendment to go before the state's voters at the next general election. In the meantime, the proposed amendment must be published in local newspapers in every jurisdiction in the state to explain exactly what the voters will be approving should they accept this proposed constitutional amendment. All right? The amendment in itself will be explained and will show the effects it will have on the state or the locale that it will affect. All right, more on that in a moment. Okay? Once the general election occurs and the people of Maryland vote on the amendment, a majority of voters in the state must approve the proposed amendment for it to become a part of the Constitution. If it is a locale or jurisdiction-specific amendment, in addition to a majority of the state's voters, a majority of the locale's registered voters must also approve the amendment, okay? Both have to check out. Now, if it's not a locale-specific amendment, then a simple majority of the state's voters would simply have to approve it for it to become effective, all right? Now, if the locale-specific amendment is rejected by the voters of that locale, as I've said, but approved by the state's voters, the bill will die, okay? The proposed amendment will die, all right? If it is approved by the locale, but rejected by the state's voters, the proposed amendment will die. So like I said, both have to check out. Assuming that the proposed amendment, regardless of whether it's affecting the whole state or just the locale, okay, is approved, the proposed amendment is approved by a majority of the state's voters, okay, the governor will receive these results affirming that a majority of the state's voters have approved the amendment and shall proclaim it adopted as part of our state constitution and effective. All right? So, simplifying it once more, okay, in case you missed anything, once the constitutional bill passes both houses of the Maryland General Assembly by a 3/5 vote, or 60%, okay, the proposed constitutional amendment must then be published, explaining to the voters everything that this amendment will entail, and at the next general election, whenever that's set to happen, all right, the voters of the state will vote on that proposed amendment. A majority of the voters of the state must approve the amendment, okay? And if it is a locale specific, in addition to the majority of voters in the state, the majority of voters in the locale must too approve the amendment for it to become effective, all right? Both have to check out if it's locale specific. If it's statewide, not locale specific, then all we need is a simple majority vote of the voters in the state of Maryland. And then, once all the votes are tallied, and the results go to the governor, he shall then proclaim thenceforth and forevermore, unless it is changed, that the amendment shall be an effective and applicable part of Maryland's state constitution. All right? I hope that's clear and direct and easy to understand. Maryland's constitutional amendment process is pretty simple. It's not difficult. All right? It's very straightforward. And that would explain, indeed, like I said, why we usually have at least one or two constitutional amendments up for consideration every time we have a general election in this state. All right? So if you have any questions or controversies, leave them in the comments below. Thanks very much for listening to this History Bite, and I'll talk to you at the next one. Have a great day.